Get ready to be the best of you with your host, Beverly Zimet.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Beverly Zimet Show, where being that best you has just gotten easier. My guest today is Amy Charlin, calling in from Rochester, Minnesota. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much, Beverly. It is so awesome to be here with you. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Are you ready to have some fun?
Oh, absolutely. Always ready to have fun.
That's good because you know what? We do a lot of laughing on this show.
Okay,
We do a lot of.
I'm in the right place.
You're in the right place because I'll tell you, boring doesn't cut it here. So.
Oh, good.
So, Amy, what is it that you do over there in Rochester, Minnesota?
Yeah, so what I do is I help women and some really awesome, cool men as well escape those soul-crushing jobs and start on a new career path that really lights them up. And if I may just share briefly here, I just feel like I'm on a mission for this because I myself have been in way too many soul-crushing jobs, and I think it's time to end this. It's time for us all to start doing that work that lights us up and to start really challenging, I think, our systems when it comes to work and careers, and to say, this is not okay. We want to be able to go to work and bring our best selves to work. So I'm a little bit on a mission with this, Beverly.
Well, that's good. You said something right. To light up the world. This song comes to my mind. You light up my life. Right?
Oh my goodness, the Carpenters, right?
Now that definitely dates us, doesn't it?
It does. That was like a number one chart hit, I think, at some point in my earlier life.
Exactly. So there's your theme song, Amy. You light up my life, right? And it's a good way to put it. We look at this interesting time here in 2020, and the shifting that's taking place. It's an opportunity for us to really take a look at what's going on within the self, right? And again, these dead-end jobs, well, they're not dead-end jobs anymore. They're dead ends, right?
Right.
And so it's like, okay, where do we go from here? And I think there's a lot of people, it's almost like there's extreme, as from what I've seen. You've got people over here that are saying, wow, this is time for me. I can like do my entrepreneur. I can like maybe start a new life, start a new business, and it's like, this is an adventure. Then you have the ones on the other side that are saying, OMG, what am I going to do? I'm like, I can't go to work. I'm locked in. And they're this nervous wreck, right?
Oh, absolutely. I think you put that just beautifully. There's really two camps, those who are seeing the opportunity and those that are just hiding it in fear and just buckling down and saying, I just need to shelter until this is all over. Right. And I don't know about you, Beverly, but, I absolutely believe that those of us who are seeking those opportunities right now, who are going after it and are not standing still, who are not settling right now, are going to be the ones that come out in 2021 just ahead of the curve and doing some really brilliant work. Those are going to be the movers and shakers. Those are going to be the leaders. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree with you 100%. Out of troubled times, out of chaos, comes great success when you perceive, where it is that you want to go. You take the bull by the horns. It goes back into, the situation, the events that's happening here. Do you have control over those events? No. But do you have control over how you choose to let them affect you? Right? So
absolutely.
In any event in your life, it's like surrender to the circumstance. It's not a giving up. Surrender to the circumstance, which then moves it out of your front end. And it kind of steps you out of the situation, right? And you can take a look at it and say, okay, now that I have faced this, it's out there, and it's like, not my rodeo, not my monkey, right? It's like, what do I do to move beyond this? And now you get resourceful. So you either move through the situation, you go under it, you go over it, you go around it, but it doesn't rule your life. Right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And as you're talking here, I'm reminded about the science, the brain science. I mean, it all comes down to what's up here, right?
Now you're talking my language. Okay.
Right up here, yes. Because our brain is beautifully designed. We've got the new brain and we've got the old brain. And the old brain is there to protect us. And so what it's always looking for is threat. It's always scanning the environment. What's the threat? What's the threat? And there's no tigers, lions, and bears chasing us. And no warring tribe that's after us. We have all these threats that we've made up in our mind now.
Yeah.
From from traffic to going to the grocery store. I mean, yes, there's some real challenges there with COVID, but we build it so much up in our mind that we're fearful of now just stepping outside our door.
Right.
And we're fearful of and bringing it back to the career situation, we're fearful that we won't have a job. We're fearful we won't have money. But what we do is, a lot of us, we're not fighting, we're not fleeing, we're freezing.
Yes.
And it's only those three things that you can do when you're feeling threatened. And a lot of us are just freezing right now. We're freezing because of that threat of the potential job loss, or just not having a job that feels, I guess, just puts a light in our step, or makes us feel like we're really doing the work we're supposed to do. And so we just freeze in what we have.
Right. And that goes back into the predictability, right? And 2020 has definitely taken predictability and said, goodbye.
Right. Absolutely. And the funny thing is, Beverly, it's never been, COVID just uncovered everything that we were trying to cover up. Is that,
yes.
Ever since when did the gold watches disappear? I mean, they haven't been around for a long time. You know how you work your way up in a company and you get the gold watch at the end?
Exactly.
I mean, those disappeared like decades ago, but we still go to work believing in that story.
Right.
But it hasn't been true for so long. And COVID has just, I think, exposed that wide open, broken it open and said, wait a minute. I'm not in a contract for employment with my employer. I'm in a contract day by day by day. It's not a long-term contract. And it's day by day by day.
Right.
As one day your employer can go, you know what? We don't need you. Financial bottom line, sorry, you're out of here. And
Right.
just one day your life can change. And that's how it's always been. But
Right.
because we don't feel in control of that, we tend to cover it up.
And that's so true. We get busy being busy, so we don't have to think about those things, right? Regardless of
Exactly.
what that is. And so many people stay in a position because of the paycheck at the end of the week. They're miserable in what they're doing. It's not their passion, and they complain about it continuously. And then all of a sudden, in walks COVID, and everybody goes, right? And now they're like freaking out. But hey, how many years have you been talking about wanting to get out of this job, and now you just got your get out of jail free card and you're complaining about that? Make up your mind, what side of the fence are you on? You over here, you over here, because you can't be in both places at the same time. So be careful what you ask for. You just might get it. And sometimes it's not always what you really, really want.
Yes, and I can so relate to that, because, and I'm not talking here like pointing the finger at anyone, because I was in exactly the same position 20 years ago after 9/11. I was in, I thought, a very secure job. I'd worked my way up, and then one day I was brought into this stark white office and introduced to the HR rep, and my boss said, sorry, we got to let you go. We got to let go of the third of the administrative staff, and boom, there it is. And
Yeah.
I was not prepared. I didn't have savings. I was $50,000 in debt. I was 400 pounds. I didn't think I was going to live to be 40 because I was under so much stress. I had done everything wrong, and that's why I'm on this mission, because I want to help others to see you need to start doing something different right now,
Yeah.
before the hammer drops, before things get to that point where you are thinking, how am I going to pay the rent or the mortgage?
Yeah.
How am I going to live without going out on the streets? And this isn't to scare people. This is just to wake us all up and go,
Right.
we can start taking steps now. It doesn't have to be scary. We can start taking that responsibility right now.
And that's
For
that's a
ourselves.
great word. You know, it is becoming responsible for your choices, right? For the choices that you make. And there are no right or wrong choices. There's no good or bad choices. They're the choices that fit into your belief system and your structure, right? And not always is that belief your truth necessarily, because you talked about the new brain, the old brain, right? So the old brain is all that ancient database, you know, that you put into place as a child, right? And here you are now, an adult, you're out in the world, you've got new database. There's only so much space, you know, to store data. And if the database of the old story, outdated information and stuff is ruling your life, maybe it's time to say, maybe I need to really check my database here, you know? How many times do we purge our computers, right? It's like, this is so outdated. Why do I still do this? Look at the things that you're doing in life. How outdated are your actions and your activities? Right? It's like, this is a new way of doing things. I mean, okay, here we are in Zoom, right? Yeah, Zoom was available, webinars are available, all these things have been available, but they weren't a way of life that automatically in in a moment's notice just flipped the the hat, and here we are. Now this is the new way of doing things, and things are more and more things are changing. You know, so again, when you look at what is happening and taking that responsibility, it's like, okay, the mindset. We talk about the new mind, the mindset, and the new database. And this is where we've got to overcome those fears, right? So we take that old database and say, okay, subconscious, you know what? Kudos off to you. You were here when I needed you. You know, you protected me. But that is so old. We have to come up with these new shiny objects. I mean, and be able to surrender to that and let it go from the storage bank, so we now can bring in the new database of information and then put that into place. And how do we take that and incorporate it into our new way of doing things? So what I'm hearing from you and what you said at the very, very beginning of what you did, you know, is helping women and men move into a new direction in life, which is basically taking the old that old database, and saying, see ya, and bringing in what the new is. And you've done that yourself on this mission, right? And I think a lot of us entrepreneurs, the leaders, the risk takers, you know, the ones that are not fearing this change and saying, oh, okay, let's just move through it. What can we do here to go beyond the situation? Surrender right to that event. Now what can we do to go beyond it and say, okay, 2020, you're back here in the rearview mirror, and here's the fast forward. But if you don't do something right now in the now, because that's all we really have, right? And so if you don't want that future to look like your past, you got to make that shift, you know, right here. And it is a paradigm shift. You know, with this whole 2020, I look at it as being a massive awakening. For years, we've heard that word, the awakening, the awakening, the awakening. And it was like when 2020 come, I'm thinking, wow, is this the awakening, right? You know, and so we need to really begin to take that responsibility, right, as you said, and go forward in that. So when you're working with a client and they come to you and they say, I don't know what to do. I lost my job. I don't have any money coming in. I don't have this. I don't have this. I don't have this. You know, and they share and regurgitate all of that. Where do you take them after that step?
Yeah, if they're coming to me when they are already in that space, I don't want to say it's too late. I really like to work with folks who are all currently still working and getting them to think so they don't have to end up there, because that's a worst case scenario, right? But if someone were to come to me, and I've had people come to me because they don't know what else to do. And the first thing we need to do is, because that old brain, that's on fire. It's all threat. Everything's a threat. And we are stressed out and we're burnt out and we can't think straight.
Right.
So this will sound counterintuitive to those who are in that situation, but you've got to, like you were saying, let go. And start to just go inward and start to go, whew, okay, what do I really want? Start to identify those skills that are needed in the workplace, start to identify those core values, start to put together this full picture of who the individual wants to be and how they want to show up in the world, who they are, and then we can start to move them forward. But there's a lot of career coaches who do this, that people come to them and say, oh, we need to do your resume and we need to get you on LinkedIn and we need to do this.
Right.
Just to help them to get back in the same situation again. I don't want to help people to do that. I want people to transform. When they come to me, if they just want a new resume, I'm like, oh, there's thousands of people who do that.
Right.
Here's a list.
There you go. There you go. Right.
But if you're coming to me, we need to take some time to really take a look at who you are and who you want to be and how you want to show up in the world. And I'm not going to let you settle for not being the leader that you know you can be. Because the world needs more really positive, inspiring leaders. And we all have a leader inside of us. And we need to unleash that. And so I want people to help people to unleash that inner leader that they have so they can go out into the world and do the work they're meant to do. I don't want them just finding another job. I just don't want to be part of that.
Yeah, it's just, that just kind of continues that same old habitual, old habit thing, right? And the whole idea here is to make that shift into something else. And you used a word, transform. So I'm going to ask you a question. What is your definition of change and transformation?
Yes.
Ooh.
That's an excellent question. And change, I can change my mind, right? And then I go back and I change it again. And it really doesn't lead to transformation. Change is just, I'm going to, like right now I got black tea in my mug. I think I'll have green tea. I'll change that tomorrow. Right?
Okay.
And then maybe I'll go back to black tea. So we can change our mind and we can make a change in maybe our eating habits, or we can make a change in even our mindset moment to moment. But transformation is when we decide that we are not okay with how things are. And we have a vision of exactly where we want to go and how we want to live. And we completely change the neural pathways in our brain so that we start to live where we want to be and who we want to be. And so it's more of this, you can't go, when you transform, you can't go backwards.
Okay, there's the magic word. That's exactly what I know. I said, she's getting there, she's getting there. And it's so true. Change, you can go back the way it was and move forward, but in a transformation, there's no going back because it is definitely completely altered. And so that is something I think the audience is really looking for in 2020. For me, I feel is the real opportunity to create transformations. And like you say, you're looking to find that leader in everyone, so that self-doubt that you once had is changing that self-doubt into saying, yeah, I am a leader. Okay, and transforming that little fear factor and transforming that into, wow, I can take the bull by the horns and I am that leader and move, right? And that is such a beautiful mission to have and to be on, and getting from just making changes to making a transformation. And that's when the real music starts happening, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. If I could share a quick story going back to when I was laid off, and I started, as soon as I was laid off, my immediate response was, of course, I was flying all over the country looking for different jobs, and nothing felt right. It just felt yucky. And I was like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Right.
And that's when the transformation started, because once you realize that something isn't working in your life, and you decide that you want to do something different, that's where the transformation starts to happen. And that's how I lost over 200 pounds. It's how I started my work as a coach 15 years ago. It's how I've changed my mindset so I'm happier, because I'm a pessimist. But if you were to meet me, you would say, oh, Amy, she's such an optimist and she's always so happy and energetic. I'm like, I'm a pessimist. It's in my core, but I have transformed that because life is so much more fun as an optimist.
That is such a key statement right there, and I think we have both optimistic and pessimistic, tendencies within who we are. Again, we're in a duality world, right? So it's always going to be there. That pendulum's going to swing both directions. It's where do you bring it into the center of harmony, right? And that's the whole purpose, is to recognize which side of the fence you're on, to walk that path of harmony. And so what you're saying about being a pessimist and an optimist really makes sense. And you also mentioned, the neurotransmitters in the brain. It was once thought that, when you reached a certain age, this whole thing on, oh, well, you're doing really good for the age that you are. And it's like, what? That to me was like, every time I heard that from a doctor or from a person in authority, I just kind of wanted to punch their lights out. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with your mindset. So it was once believed that the neurotransmitters, were dying as you spent more time on the planet, and that they couldn't be reproduced, right? Well, now science has proven, well, that's really a false truth, right? And so the fastest way to create a new neurotransmitter is learn a language, right? Yeah. But one of the things I think we forget the most is we get in these habitual things, this whole predictable world, right? So the predictable world of your safety zone, right, is it lets the brain go stagnant. And the more stagnation in the brain, the further away the firing of the dendrites to the frontal lobes of the cortex, right? Where your current, memory is. And that's why when Alzheimer's or dementias or any thought, forgetfulness is happening, it's because you're not firing to that frontal lobe where your current messages are stored. And the old messages begin to be your life, right?
Yeah.
So
we often hear that term living on default, and that's what's happening.
Yeah. And so it's what can we do to make changes? And again, 2020 is a great, a message here, because it took you out of all things predictable, so use that to your advantage, not a disadvantage. Right? Because it's given you the opportunity to not let that brain get stagnant, to create neurotransmitters, right? And what are you supplying them with? What are you putting in that neurotransmitter? Because if you're adding more fear, you're going to do what? You're going to get the result of what fear brings, right? So start shifting in those neurotransmitters and putting in your, your desires, your outcomes, your forward direction, your goals, your dreams. Learning how to dream again. And our creativity has been so squelched because of how we've been taught, how we've been living over the last, I would say probably 40 decades have gone by where creativity has just kind of gone out the window. There's a talk about creating vision boards and stuff like that, and you take people into, let's go into a meditation, they don't know how to quiet their brain. They don't know what that is. They don't know what it is to dream. They're not even sure what it is, what it means to create a goal, because the creativity has disappeared. So it's time to get back into the what if world, get into the pretend world, and we're talking about, we talked a little bit about virtual reality, right? And my little friend here, right, is my avatar. She shows up every day for my show, and, she observes what's going on. Well, when you move into the virtual reality world, you are moving now into an opportunity to see things from a different perspective, right? And it levels the playing ground. There's no judgment in there. It puts you in an avenue of, what are my possibilities? Because it focuses on, where do I want to go? What do I want to see? Because we can take you into so many different worlds. I mean, we can take you over into the pyramids and you can walk the pyramids. We can take you up into the sky. You can walk on the planets. We can actually take you to an atom, where you can actually stand on an atom and see all the little particles and everything moving around in it. We can take you down to the beach. We can take you to climb a mountain on the snow caps of the Alps. We can take you into a church. We can take you into a meditation room. We can take you into a boardroom of business. We can take you on adventures that are going to help stimulate your creativity once again. So it's like really living the pretend world or the what if world versus just like thinking about it and not really getting the visual of it. And that's what's made the gaming industry a multi-billion-dollar industry, multi-billion, right? And the same way with animated movies and TV shows, because the brain connects with that creature. How do we teach our children? How do we teach the ABCs and the 1, 2, 3s and, all of that? It's all animated characters, isn't it? Because the brain accepts it. Doesn't matter what age you are, the brain accepts that. So virtual reality really in essence is a powerhouse of shifting, right? It doesn't matter what color you are, doesn't matter what belief you have, doesn't matter what age you are. None of that matters, because you can create that avatar in the essence of who you really believe you are. It gives you the opportunity to be an expression of you. We see people come in, that are scared to death to get on a stage and talk, right? Because it's like, people are looking at me, is my hair okay? Is my makeup okay? Are my clothes okay? All of these conscientious things, that we put in this crazy brain chatter, right? Now they're in the virtual reality world. They have their little avatar. They jump up on this big stage and they give the talk of their life. So we're building confidence. We're building trust. We're building so much more strength and creativity. And another plus, you become an international speaker like that fast. As soon as you get on that stage and start talking, you're now an international speaker. Great status to have, right? So there's so many different things that go on. And let's go back into the science. You and I like the science thing, right?
Absolutely.
The mental health institutions have been using virtual reality for decades. The last probably 5-6 years or so, they've gotten more intently with it. And, they have their own special little Oculus glasses that they use when they're working with people to overcome fears and phobias and PTSDs, even dementia. There's so many things that they're using now for overcoming these things that they said, well, there's no way of overcoming, but there is, right? And so when you look at virtual reality, it's here to stay. It's not a game. So what we actually did is we looked at what was going on in the games and how, these kids, it's in their DNA, for heaven's sakes, look at our technology. We have this little thing that's been our life for how many years, right? Technology is not going away. And technology that separated us is now bringing us back together. And why not immerse yourself onto a platform where you are connected, face to face, not Zoom to Zoom, square to square, but actually face to face in that real life situation, and bring some more normalcy back into the life, right? And this is where business is being done, and it's going to continue to go. Life as we knew it before 2020 is totally non-existent. You talk about old brain, throw it out. It's gone. You want to be a leader? Be a risk taker? It's time to jump into the virtual reality, because that's where life is taking us. And ask your kids. They'll tell you, where do they want to be? That's where they want to be. So it's time to really put them in, because we took the game out of gaming. We left the fun, because we're all about fun, right? Laughter is the best medicine. And we moved in business, we moved in education, and we moved in entertainment. The three things that keep life interesting, right? Yeah. And so it's that next level of, whoa, it is a big step. It's a major transformation. It's a paradigm shift. But once you make it, it's like, once you go, you'll never go back. I swear, I never thought that I would be in that world in the capacity in which I am. But it's been a game changer. It is a transformation. So, we're doing demos with people, and they're beginning to realize that it doesn't matter if you're an artist. You can put your gallery in here. It doesn't matter if you teach meditation or yoga, or you have one-on-one coaching. You're there. If you're this massive corporation, all of your employees can be there. Think about the savings you have. You don't have to drive to this office. You don't have to pay all these high rents. You don't have to pay the electrical bill. You build it once, it's always there. You can have clients from around the world, so now you don't have to pay for somebody to come in, put them up in an expensive hotel, buy their meals and everything, wine and dine, when you can do it right here in virtual reality and really make serious business happen, right? And the savings are phenomenal. So we talk about, scaling. You talk about wanting to put more money or keep more money in your bank account for those things that you want to do. Here's your option. So the world is changing.
Oh.
But the world is transforming. And again, what side of the fence do you want to be on, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I was just having this conversation with another career strategist, and he's been doing it for years, and talking about how artificial intelligence is going to just take over so many jobs in ways we can't even imagine. And what does that mean for us as those who are doing work? What does that mean for the work we do? What does that mean for our jobs? What does that mean for how we show up at work? And like you were saying, with virtual reality, how is that going to shift how we work? And what are the opportunities there?
Exactly.
And so we can think of this as something scary. It's like, oh man, maybe my job will be automated.
But it already is.
Opportunity is, yes, it's already moving. Yeah. I was just reading last night that where companies were with technologies in virtual reality and just in virtual work in general, in months they leapt 3 to 4 years ahead.
Right.
And they're continuing to make those huge, massive leaps. And if we aren't preparing ourselves right now for that, we're going to be left behind.
You're so right. You're so right. And again, that's taking responsibility of where do you want to be? Do you want to be in the old, outdated? How's that working for you right now, right? Or are you ready to take that shift into that next level? And that's kind of the business. We actually started this before COVID, and it just kind of exploded, you know. So anyone out there listening, if you're ready to make that shift, comment below. Reach out. It's time. Your time is now, not tomorrow. It's now, because all you have is now, right? And so where does that take you? Where does that leave you, right? And you want to be a leader? You want to be a thought leader? You want to be a do leader? There's a difference, right?
There is. I love it.
You know, and again, it's you have choices. To either do or to not to do. But, you know, all the knowledge in the world isn't worth a dime if you don't take action. Right?
So true. And how many of us have all the knowledge that we ever need or know how to find it,
Right.
but do nothing with it? I mean, you can Google literally anything. You want to start a business, you can Google how to do that. If you want to lose weight, you can Google how to do that. I mean, anything you can imagine. Get more people on your Facebook platform page, whatever it is, right? You can Google it. The information is out there for free. But that's why we hire others to help us, because all that knowledge is overwhelming.
It's a lot. It's a lot to take
apply
in.
it.
Right.
And we don't know. Yeah, we don't know how to focus, and we don't know how to filter. And that's where having someone to help us can be so powerful, because they can be a guide and help us to go, okay, take a deep breath.
It's like
Take it step by step.
Exactly. What, you know, and again, it's looking what priorities, because we can get overwhelmed, you know, and virtual reality, you know, we've taken people on demonstrations and they see what's going on in there, and sometimes they can hit overwhelm like that fast, because the brain starts digesting and starts speeding up with all these ideas, and it's like, okay, let's just bring things back into chronological order. What is your main outcome that you want, right? So what can we do to help give you that direction, that guidance, regardless of what it is? You know, in life, when you're taking new steps of transformation, there is an order to do what needs to be, and it's that focus. And when it's crazy, we usually have this whole idea of we get involved with all these little things, right? So all the little static run, right? And it's like, let's set those aside. And now let's focus on the system, the chronological order, because systems work, people don't. Right? And so we allow all those little static things to come in, the what ifs, the what ifs, the what ifs. It's like the what ifs don't play a role in the robotics of the system, because a system is a robotic. Right? And we talked about, you know, losing your job. Robotics are taking over. AI is taking over. So perform as your own robotic, right? And find that system. And that's why coaches like, you know, like Amy are out there to say, oh, okay, what can I do here, right? To put these in perspective, get the overwhelm out of the way. So you just shove everything over here, right? And move out of it and say, okay, what are the priorities over there? Here's your first priority, you know, and get this system put in place, and pretty soon things just start working like clockwork. And those little things disappear because the system burns them all up and puts them into place the way they're supposed to function. Right?
Yes. Oh, and I love this conversation, because I used to think, and once again, I'm not talking about anything that I haven't experienced myself. I used to think that systems were just something that would get in the way of my creativity, because when
Right.
you spend so much time in corporate America and working for someone else in these hierarchical systems, you think of systems in that from that perspective.
Right.
But what we're talking about here, Beverly, and tell me if I'm wrong here. I think we're on the same page. with this,
I
but
believe we're on the same
okay.
page so far. It's looking pretty good.
Okay. Is what we're creating are systems that are built on what we desire and what we want.
Right.
So it's the systems that we're used to are coming from high above, and they're probably not a good fit for us. But these systems that you and I are talking about, these are ones that we're creating so we can live our best life,
Right.
so that we can create these systems in our mind, changing those neural pathways, so that we're not always pulled to threat, but we can be pulled to pleasure and novelty and enjoy life more. And
Right.
that's building systems and building a career you love. That's systems. And it doesn't take away from creativity. It actually enhances it, because what takes away from creativity is overwhelm.
Yeah, and it's all that little busy,
Chaos.
busy stuff, you know.
And the
You're
busy,
so busy
yes.
being busy, you're not being productive. You're actually being destructive. And
Yes.
with the system in place, like you say, you know, you got that neural pathway now. Where are you going to direct it to go?
Right.
And when you put the
exactly.
system in place, yeah, you're not going to fall into the abyss. You're going to go up here into the ecstasy, right? Without the drugs.
But good living feels like a drug sometimes, doesn't it?
Well, you know what? It's a good drug of choice. I'll tell you that. I like that high, you know.
There's nothing like it.
Yeah, you know, when you can live life to its fullest, you're elevated into this energy. Because I have a lot of people ask me and say, Beverly, it doesn't matter what time of day I see you, doesn't matter what's going on in your life, you're always this bubble of energy. How do you do this? It's like, well, I don't drain myself for one thing, and I keep my mind elevated, and it's not about positive attitude, it's about positive living. It's what's an option for you and what's not. When I look at that, it's like, that's not an option for me, right? And I remain in my mind, my whole mindset is around this being 45, because to me 45 was the magic number. So I've been 45 for a really, really long time. and I intend to be 45 for a really, really longer time. So it goes back into that belief system, right? And again, a lot of times what we end up doing is we drain ourselves of the energy. We burn up our own inner energy when we need to be taking the energy from the universe. It's abundant out here. It's unlimited in the universe. And that was given to each and every one of us. So it's learning how to breathe and breathe in that energy, right? So the training and stuff that needs to happen is understand. And anybody's out there listening and you want to know how to really absorb energy and stay high on that energy all the time, is to really understand the breathing aspect of it and the vibrational aspects of it. Just reach out and I'll teach you how to do that, because it's really pretty simple. And I don't know if you hear this from your clients, but it's like, oh my gosh, the people that I work at, they are so draining. Right? So what does that mean? They are draining. Why? Because you opened up your field and you're giving them your energy. You're supposed to be giving them direction and guidance. So then it comes into another whole show we can talk about.
Yes.
In empathy and sympathy, right? So when you're sympathizing with someone, meaning you're getting involved with their emotional connection, you are now in their world, and you're feeding off of them, they're feeding off of you, and you're going to get drained. But when you separate and you go into the empathy, now it's like, okay, you're out of the situation. And from what I'm hearing, what you're saying is you're taking that person out of that overwhelm, which is the victim, poor little me type of, avenue, and moving out of the situation. And now you're on the outside looking in. And when you're on the outside looking in, you can put together that system. Mm-hmm. You can take away the pity parties right? And you can really begin to focus and put into place a direction that's going to be a life-changing transformation, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. I just wanted to comment too, Beverly, as you're talking about how you get energized.
Uh-huh.
What you've developed, that was all systems, right?
It
Everything that you're talking
definitely,
about is all
yes,
based on systems.
it
Systems you've
is.
created for your
Yeah.
life, so you can always be energized.
Yeah. Because being without energy, for me, is not an option. Being sick is not an option. I've never been sick a day in my life. It's not an option. So, again, we go back into the belief system, right? And where the quantum stuff is. Bruce Lipton talks about that, and that's another show, right? Oh my gosh, we are coming up on the hour here, Amy. It's just been a fabulous show here today. The message has been so powerful. And, give the audience one more powerful morsel here of what can they do to start putting into action a transformational step to make 2021 become their legacy. Woo, now that's
I
a
love
big
that.
question, huh?
That is a beautiful question. And you know what? The answer is going to seem so simple that a lot of folks might tune out, but I really encourage you not to right now, because this is going to transform your life. It transformed mine, and it's so simple. When we are in overwhelm, when we're feeling stressed and burnt out, and we're feeling that life is just not on our side, when we're feeling that way, all we have to do is take a breath and be in the moment. Like you were saying, be in the now. So all we need to do is take a deep breath, be present, be in our body, because that's all we have. We have our breath, we have our body, and just to be in that moment. Because if you can be in that moment, anything is possible. It's when we're all up here and we're stressing out and we let that old brain take over.
Right.
That's when our life just gets on that track of going nowhere fast. But when we can take that deep breath, what we're doing is bringing on, as you said earlier, this executive center of the brain, where our creativity
Right.
clicks on, our ability to make good decisions clicks on, our ability to be great leaders clicks on, all up here in the brain. When we just take that deep breath, we're bringing this back online, and we're saying, you know what? Not today, old brain. I'm not listening to you today, old brain. I'm bringing my new brain online, because that's where the power is. And it all starts one deep breath and just getting in touch with yourself in that moment.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. That is such powerful information and really good advice. Because at the end of the day, all you do have is now. Right?
Absolutely.
Amy, thank you so much for being here. And if people want to reach you, how can they find you?
Yes, they can find me. I'm on LinkedIn, just Amy Charland. I was one of the early adopters, so I actually have my name. You look for Amy Charland, you'll find me there. I'm on Facebook as well. If I got plenty of space for new friends on Facebook, because I'm a little selective who I allow
that's what you gotta be.
into my space on Facebook. So feel free to reach out to me there, send me a message. Or if you want to learn more about what I do, helping people escape those soul-crushing jobs, you can go to my Facebook page, which is Lights On Again Coaching, or at Coach Amy Charland.
Lights On Coaching. I love that. Lights on, right?
Or Lights On Again.
Lights on again. Okay.
Yeah, Lights On
you
Again.
You light up my life, right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. We're back to the Carpenter song. We're going to have to play that later.
Yeah, we are. We are. That's your theme song. From now on out, that's your theme song. So
there we go. I love it.
If you can't remember what she said, remember the Carpenter song, right? You light up my life. Oh, yeah. It's a light up coaching. So.
Yes.
Amy, thank you so much again. We'll have to have you back on and
I would love to be here.
And see what else that we can send out there as a message, because your message is powerful and it's transformational. Thank you so much for being here. Now it's time to say, go out there, be that best you that you can be. And why is that? Because Amy and we are going to be the best we that we can be. And everyone go out there and make it a great day, and we'll see you on another show.